So I just got back from class about an hour ago, and the class was evolution of consciousness, and we were talking tonight about Carl Jung's depth psychology and the relationship of the ego to the unconscious, and it got me thinking a lot about why it is that I've uploaded hundreds of videos to YouTube in the past few years, and at least from my conscious perspective, from the perspective of the personality which is speaking in this particular moment, it seems that I've attempted in my videos to lay bare the unconscious need to recognize our fundamental wholeness and unity. And in all of my videos, I try to express my thoughts and feelings as honestly as possible. Um, I really don't like having to remake the same video over again, because then it takes on this quality of insincerity and sort of it's not as authentic, because I'm repeating what I said before, and I actually just tried to record this video and there was some error, so I'm now recording it again for the second time. And of course I'm saying different things than I said the first time, but at the same time, um, I'm trying to convey the same message again, and the fact that I'm repeating it throws this loop on the process where I become more self-conscious about what it is exactly that I'm trying to do. And I think for anyone that takes the numinous or the spiritual or the divine seriously, anyone that does that must also recognize the influence of the unconscious on our conscious motivations, because as Jung describes consciousness, it's really an archetype of the unconscious. And so while we may consciously think we're in control of the decisions we make on a day-to-day basis, and the people that we enter relationships with, and we're in control generally, that's actually an illusion. Um, if there's any control at all, it's in the hands of the unconscious, which our conscious attention is embedded within. And for the past few thousand years, consciousness has been struggling vehemently to separate itself more and more from the unconscious. Um, the increased rate of the invention of new technologies is a manifestation of this on the material plane. Consciousness trying to gain a greater handle on natural instincts and on the natural cycles of the biosphere, and in the process, because consciousness has been in such a rush to differentiate itself from the unconscious, it's ended up destroying its own body. It's ended up disassociating itself from nature. And I think the only way to heal this wound, because really we are, as human beings, as conscious, civilized 21st century human beings, in a sense we're wounded animals. We've inflicted great pain upon that part of ourselves which is natural, for lack of a better word, biological. We've inflicted pain upon it by producing culture, by trying to restrain instinct and civilize ourselves. And that's not to say that this process wasn't somehow necessary. But having arrived at the point where we have arrived today, it seems that a certain degree of reintegration is necessary. I mean, we're on the verge of the collapse of a certain structure of civilization. And it's forcing us to face the unconscious, to face chaos, to face the unknown, the mystery, the numinous. And I think, at least on this conscious level that I'm verbalizing at the moment, that my experience on YouTube over the past few years has been an attempt to lay bare the unconscious workings of my psyche, such that those watching could recognize their own unconscious. Because, at least as far as Jung's concerned, the unconscious is collective. We share an experience of a collective history. Obviously, biological evolution is pretty well proven that all of us, organisms, arose from a single original parent cell. And so the experience of the last 4 billion years of life on this planet is contained within each one of us. And we share it. And while we may be individuals on the level of our separate bodies from the time of birth until now, the vast majority of that which composes our being is shared. And even with our separate bodies, we come to speak the same language. We live in the same world on the same planet. We depend on the same natural resources and the same structures, the same social structures, the same economy, and so forth. So we're all in this together, and I think part of the problem of contemporary Western society, though to even say Western at this point is kind of a misnomer, because we are a globalized system. We are a planetary society at this point. East and West have met and married. There's some kinks to be worked out, but it's 2008, 2009 almost, and we are a single human planet at this moment, even if many of us don't recognize it yet. In the future, they'll look back and say, oh yeah, in 2008 they were already planetary Homo sapiens. So I think our task right now, what the unconscious is calling us to do, is recognize our relationship to it as conscious entities, because again, we've worked so hard to separate and distinguish ourselves that we've damn near disassociated ourselves, which it's not entirely possible to do that, because consciousness is an archetype of the collective unconscious. But we've gotten very close to that, and as a result, the biosphere is on the verge of collapse. Human society is on the verge of collapse. The food that we eat to supply our bodies with energy is, you almost can't even call it food. It's edible, but it's not exactly food. So we've so separated the mind from the body, to put it in other language, that if we don't turn back and recognize where we came from, we are going to go extinct. We're going to commit collective suicide. And what this all means, what this realizing of the relationship between the ego and the unconscious, what it means and what it requires is that we become more honest with ourselves, that we stop hiding, that we stop being fearful of death, for one thing. I mean, at an unconscious level, each of us recognizes that death is merely a transformation. Only consciousness fears it as some kind of an ultimate end. But I think I've said enough, and even if you don't understand where I'm coming from at all on a conscious, rational level, hopefully I've reached into your psyche deeper than that conscious, rational level,